Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is Kristen with Monarch Plans, and I am so excited today to be talking about the POWERSHEETS planner and the new releases that are coming up here very, very soon. This is one of my favorite times of year, just being able to talk about some new releases and especially the goal systems like POWERSHEETS and some other companies, just because that just means we are getting ready to refresh our goals and get ready for the next year. As much as I can't believe we are ending 2021 pretty soon, it's coming up fast, so it's time to start prepping. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about a few things before we hop into the new POWERSHEETS goal planner. I wanted to just have a couple announcements and talk very briefly about what my plans are in terms of content for the next couple days before the launch. So launch day for POWERSHEETS is October 6th. So that's Wednesday. They launch in the morning at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So be on the lookout for more details on that and mark your calendars for that date, because I don't know how quickly things will sell out. There's sometimes that some of the colors of the POWERSHEETS sell out sometimes somewhat quickly. So if you want one, be sure to mark that on your calendar. What I'm planning though is this video itself will just be walking through the new POWERSHEETS, the 2022 version versus the 2021 version. So that is the plan for this. I will be walking through pretty much page by page in the new version to show you what is new or different about the 2022 version. And if you have the 2021 version, that'll give you a good idea of whether or not the changes are to your liking or not. If you've never had the POWERSHEETS before, then hopefully you'll stick around and see exactly what is included in the goal planner. So really quickly, I'll talk about this a little bit more in a video in the next couple days. But if you were just interested in the POWERSHEETS book itself, so just the spiral and none of the accessories, it is $62. But there are a bunch of different bundles available that you can choose that give you like planner pouches, different wildcard sheets, stuff like that. So keep an eye out for those on the website. I'll go over those in a video in the next few days. And in that video, I'll also walk through all of the other accessories I got, because not only did I get the POWERSHEETS itself, but I also chose a bundle that I just talked about that included a bunch of other products. So I'll be walking through that bundle and talking a little bit more about your options from that standpoint. But this video is only focused on the planner itself. So I know a lot of you who are watching this may not actually know what POWERSHEETS are, so I wanted to talk about that really quickly before I get started. So POWERSHEETS is a goal setting system. It really helps you walk through the goal setting process from the very, very beginning to the end and through all of the months of the upcoming year. And what I really love about it is it not only just kind of helps you set goals, but the prep work before you even set your goals is very, very deep, and it really helps you break down what is actually important to you. So you're not working on goals that are just ambiguous and really aren't getting you closer to who or what you want to be or where you want to be. So that's something that sets this apart a little bit from other goal setting systems, is some of them will have some prep work, but it's really not as necessarily reflective or in-depth as the POWERSHEETS tends to be. So I'll walk through the planner and you'll see some of the prep work pages and kind of see what I mean. And you can compare that to any other goal systems that you are familiar with. But I really enjoy the prep work mainly, and then I do enjoy the kind of monthly setup of how you track your progress and how you break down your goals. So that is really what I think sets the POWERSHEETS and the Cultivate What Matters process apart, is it just looks a little bit different than other goal setting processes. So I am going to get started. What I'm going to do is I will kind of be showing you some differences between the 2021 version and the 22 version, but let me really quickly show you kind of what the outside of this looks like and kind of the physical characteristics of this book before we hop into talking about comparing some of the insides. So as you can see, the book this year comes in a box. So that is different than the prior years. They are celebrating their 10-year anniversary this year of the POWERSHEETS. I don't know if you can see that, celebrating 10 years. So all of the different POWERSHEETS planners come in a box like this. different colors depending on what color planner you get. And so this is really nice because you can use this as a keepsake box, or you can just use this to protect your planner until you're using it in the upcoming year, whatever you want to do with it. But it is very nice and sturdy, so that is really, really nice. I'm not sure if it's just for the 10-year anniversary or if they're going to keep on doing this, but for the time being, I'm really happy about this, and I'll see what I can use this for. It might just be something, if I decide to keep my Power Sheets after the end of the year, I'll probably just put it back in this box. Really quickly, we'll also talk about kind of the choices you have for the Power Sheets planner. So you can choose your cover design or color, and so they have a bunch of different solid colors that are like a linen blend cover, and then they have one blooms cover, which is kind of their signature pattern. It changes every year, but it's always kind of similar. And so what I chose, obviously by the box, was their green. I don't believe that they've had a green planner like this before, and so I wasn't really sure what I was going to choose, but there's like a coral pink, there's a natural linen like tan color, there's a teal, there's a really light blue, and then they have their blooms cover, which I'll show you kind of what that pattern looks like in just a few minutes. When I was originally looking at the Power Sheets, I'm definitely a teal or like a floral person, so I was really thinking about getting either the teal or the blooms cover. But when I saw this, green is definitely not like in my top colors that I would choose for something. So for that reason, I decided to choose it because I really want to push myself out of my comfort zone this upcoming year, and green is definitely something that is not in my comfort zone. Don't really know why, it's just not a color I gravitate to, and so I kind of wanted to push myself in that little direction that's a little bit different than what I would normally go towards. So I chose the green. One thing to keep in mind is if you do want the green, it is a limited edition, and so they have mentioned on some of their social media that the limited edition green cover has limited quantities. So that is one thing I would keep in mind if you wanted the green. I don't quite know how many they have in stock, so if you are wanting one, I would probably recommend ordering sooner rather than later, just to make sure you get the color you want. But again, I'm not sure how quickly that'll sell out, but we will just have to see. So let me take the planner out of the box really quickly, and I will move the box over to the side. So we have the same pretty much cover that we had last year. Essentially, I don't see really any differences between this year and last year's cover. So if you have last year's Power Sheets, you don't really have to worry about any big differences with the cover. They have the rounded gold hardware, the corner protectors on here. There's this kind of embossed, or like I guess reverse embossed because it's indented into the cover, gold foil here for the title and for the name of the book. And then you have the gold wire O binding. The back is just very plain, similar to the front with the same material with the corner protectors as well. One thing to keep in mind, and I'm not sure if there's a fix for this, I haven't really experimented with it, but the gold corners for me on my planners tend to get a little bit tarnished over the year. So you can see here that they are very like nice pure gold, and you can see, I don't know if there's a big difference, but they're a little bit darker on this planner because they're just kind of like worn out from just sitting out and being exposed. I don't take this anywhere, so it's not necessarily worn, but they definitely do kind of lose their luster over the year. But so that is it for the outside. If you have any questions, and I'll mention this now, about anything that I go through, please feel free to leave a comment below, and I'll try and address those in a future video in the next couple days. I'll just quickly go over some of the questions I've gotten if I do receive any from this video. I will mention also before I hop onto the inside of the planner is that I feel like this is a very high quality cover. It is like a linen blend, and I don't really worry about my covers being damaged. They're thick enough that I don't think they're gonna bend, they're not gonna rip, nothing like that. It's a very sturdy cover. The one thing I will mention is not last year, but the year before, I had a blooms cover that had kind of the blooms pattern, and it had some gold kind of foil detail on it. And over the year that did did get worn. So if you are curious about maybe the blooms cover or something like that, that's one thing to keep in mind, is just very, very slightly the gold started kind of rubbing off a little bit in some of the places where it was either rubbing on my desk or in my bag. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But when I had the natural linen cover last year, it did not get worn pretty much at all. But then again, I don't really take this places with me. So that's something to keep in mind. So let's head into the inside of the planner. So you'll see here, this is the blooms pattern that I was talking about, that they have a cover design. So this would be on the cover of your book, and then the inside has, this inside pocket would have a different design. So definitely this is something that speaks to me. I love florals, so I was very close to ordering this, but that's when I decided to go for the green instead. But I really love this little pop of color on the inside of the green planner. All the different planners pretty much have a different inside pocket. Some of the colors have just like a plain white pocket with gold foil lines. You can see the details on their website when you're looking at the different colors. So search through the website and see the different combinations, but I just really love the green with the floral, and that kind of just spoke to me a little bit. When you first open your power sheets, you see here there's just the opening page, but what I saw in mine was this little card that's like a little checklist of things to do to get started with your power sheets. So you just kind of make your way through the process, and that is kind of the directional card that they provide to you. You have some other things here, a little note from Cultivate What Matters. And then one thing that I think people are going to be very, very happy about is we get our Word of the Year cards back. Last year, they did not provide these Word of the Year cards, and I think a lot of people were disappointed. So they are back this year. So I hope people are excited about this. It was a nice surprise to see this when I opened up my power sheets. So I usually just tuck these things in the front until I'm done with them, and then I will move, you know, my Word of the Year card and all that wherever I need to put it. One thing I will note about this cover pocket is it's not super thick, so you're not going to be able to put something really, really thick in here. And I try to be a little bit careful with it because in 2021, this side started coming a little bit unglued for me. So that's something to keep in mind. It's like a very thick cardstock. So you do need to be a little bit careful with it, but it serves a good purpose for things like this that are just kind of loose, thin papers that need somewhere to go. So keep that in mind if you are needing some type of pocket for something thicker. I don't think this will work very well. Let's get into the first pages here of the actual PowerSheet system. So you see we just have our little intro page here. The next page is this sticker sheet. And so one thing that I will note is if you have the 2021 version or really other versions of the PowerSheets planner, this 2022 sticker sheet feels thinner. And so I don't know if they changed kind of their sticker, like what type of stickers they're including, but I think I prefer the thinner stickers. The ones previously were a little bit thick in my opinion, and I tend to like more thin stickers so it doesn't create any bulk. So that is something that's a little bit different. When I first felt this, I could tell like a noticeable difference. The other thing that I will say is the colors for 2022 are different than 2021. And let me get the stickers out so I can show you. But you can see that there are a lot of similarities in some of the top colors, but you will see that the bottom colors are definitely different. So you can tell that this is a little bit less orange in 2022. The yellow looks like it might be very similar, but very slightly different. And these colors seem a little bit more vivid, and there's just some general differences. These all look a little bit darker, and I'm thinking it might be because of the different material that the stickers are printed on, but that's something to keep in mind is if you've gotten sticker books or anything like that in the past, there might be some very slight differences in how they show up together when you put them down. So not anything that's super crazy. There's not any huge differences, but it is something to note if you are someone who is very, very concerned with colors matching and everything like that. So other than that, stickers are pretty similar. What I noticed is that there are 98 stickers in the 2021 version and there's 91 in the 2022 version. Not a huge difference, but there are some differences in what is included. So we have some other stickers here that weren't included in 2021. You still have all of these little flags that are here. So you see on the side, you have the little blooms and the hearts and everything like that. But you don't have like the progress stickers or anything like that. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. There's a little bit less stickers on here because I think they needed to add a couple other ones that kind of go along with the planning process and updates for 2022. So if we move past the stickers here, we get into the pre-planning pages, some of the pre-planning. And what I found is that in general, things are very similar between 2021 and 2022. There are some key differences that I actually think are pretty good improvements that we'll get to in just a few minutes. But we have our just introduction pages here, and you get into your 2022 goal ideas. This is the same as 2021. There's really no difference here. In 2022's version, you can see things look a little bit different. And what I've noticed is looking through the prep work and everything, there's a little bit more white space, and you'll see that on the following pages. Obviously, this page is a little bit busy, but they changed kind of the design of these pages, the more instructional pages, to be a little bit more simple. And I appreciate that because you can always take some notes if there's anything you think about when you're doing this. You can write them on the side. If you want a comparison, I can show you really quickly what the last year's looked like. But we have here that you can see there's like the color block on one side and then all of the info was here, and there's really not necessarily white space. You can always write over here, but it was just more colorful this year and filled with, you know, different colors. So, oops, you can see that pretty much everything in the next couple of pages is the same. There might be some minor changes in some of the options or prompts, but nothing super different between last year's and this year's. And so you can see here, as I flip through, what I would suggest is if you want to pause something, and let me zoom in too, so it's a little bit easier for you to see if you do end up pausing. If you haven't had the PowerSheets before and you're interested in what is in here, please feel free to pause at any point and you can read through what's on these pages, and hopefully that gives you a good idea. But I'm not going to be focusing per se on how to do the PowerSheets at this point. I'll put out a video probably closer to November or December talking about my prep work and really walking through how I use these pages. So this hopefully can just give you an overview of what's in here, and then once you purchase, we can go through the actual goal setting process and go a little bit deeper. But let me keep flipping. Like I said, there's not really any big changes in those couple pages that I just showed you, including this one. What is a little bit different, and it's mainly just how things look, is the cultivated life evaluation. They really streamlined it, and you know, they still include the pops of color, but they're just a little bit less than in prior years. So last year they had colored headers here with the names of the different categories. Now they just have these like colored bars on the side. They also included these little icons here for each different category this year. And so that is a little bit interesting. They haven't done that in the past. So I'm interested to see if they maybe use those in some of the stickers that they sell, or if they have those in some of the wildcard pages, which I'll talk a little bit more about in my video in the next few days. But definitely a little bit more simplified. What I also noticed is that they have a little bit different categories than last year. This used to just be health. It's now health and wellness. They have focal relationship. I believe this used to be spouse and focal relationship. They previously just had this one as work, and now it's work and learning. So I think what they're doing is really just making these more broad, so more of these categories apply to different people. So that is just a little different, still the same categories themselves, just a little bit more broad titles. What I will also note, and I'm not going to be bringing up other goal setting systems very often, but I also feel like these category names really are similar to some other goal setting systems such as Moxie Life. I know that there's some pretty similar names of some of the different categories for the Moxie Life Planner, and now with these changes, they kind of align a little bit more closely. If we keep flipping, these also are very similar. Again, some minor changes in the prompts, but just kind of going over good things, gratitude, challenges, learning opportunities, all of that from the past year. And then we get into this section, which some of the prompts have changed on this page, but not anything that's too crazy. What I do feel is that they're definitely taking people's comments into account when they are updating the planner. So they make minor changes, nothing super big, but when they do make changes, for the most part, I feel like they're improvements instead of kind of taking a step backwards. In the next page here, again, the prompts section has changed just from what I noticed. Then we get into this spread here, which actually was not in the 2021 version. We have our big picture vision and living it out this year. And so what this looks like is you're starting to dive into each of your different categories, and you're really just brainstorming how you want to grow in each of these categories. And I think that's a really cool jumping off point for actually getting into your more specific goals, because here you're not actually writing down your exact goals. You're just saying like, this is where I kind of want to grow, not that I have to or that I'm going to, I would like to. And that can either be this year, next year, 10 years from now, 5 years from now, whatever it needs to be. And so I think that this is a really good addition. And then on this side, you have living it out this year. So you can take what you wrote here and write here what things you can do this year to kind of embody who you want to be. It can just be kind of small, simple steps of what you can do in this coming year. And so this is a little bit different than prior years where they didn't have you brainstorming and breaking it out in this way. So this will be really interesting to see how this goes. But in the scheme of things, I think I really like this because I'm a person that kind of needs to baby step my way into my bigger goals. And I think brainstorming, not only in the front of the planner when you have, you know, this goal ideas page. So this, you know, this doesn't have any categories relating to it. It's just very, very broad. You then start categorizing some of those ideas and then really thinking about what you can do. So it's kind of a little step by step through the prep work. And this is a really great addition and baby step in my opinion. Then we have this page, which has been in prior years. It's what you're saying yes to in the coming year and what you're saying no to. So that has definitely been in prior versions of the planner. What is a little bit different is it is a combination of 2 pages from the 2021 version. So in the 2021 version, you had my cultivated year, and there was just pretty much a big blank page where you could just write almost like a journal entry. And sorry, I'm covering this up because it was my prep work, so there's some personal stuff in here, but it was just a very open-ended page with just this prompt here up at the top. And then the next page was this, what I'm saying yes to and what I'm saying no to. And so what they did for 22 is they combined those into kind of one page here and just simplified into what I'm saying yes to and what I'm saying no to. So I'm glad that they kind of got rid of just the big free writing page, because that can also be somewhat overwhelming, especially if you haven't done power sheets and prep work before. So I like that they're including pages that are a little bit more prompted and have very specific things that you need to write in them. So I think that was a good change. I'm not sure if people have feedback on whether or not they liked that journaling page or not, but I definitely really prefer this version than last year's. Here we have your intentional year. You just go through and you fill out this page, and you can reference prior pages, which I really appreciate because it brings it kind of all together to this point. So they had this in last year's, but it's just a little bit different. So I've noticed that they have put a focus more on intentional in the Power Sheets this year. I think this was called your best year in the prior versions, and this is now your intentional year. So, you know, we can kind of make of that what you want, but that's one thing I've noticed in a couple different areas of the planner. There's some very general differences, and this version is simplified compared to the prior year. So I appreciate that it's a little bit more simplified and streamlined. So this gets into a little bit different thing that wasn't in the prior year's planner. So we have page 24 here, which is, you know, pretty similar to prior years just in general. But what is very different is this types of goals page. And this has not been in a prior planner recently. So they break your goals down into 3 different types. There's habits, finish lines, and big dreams. And then there's this section where you mark what types of goals you're going to have in each area of like focus, life focus. So very interesting. They haven't really had these before. They've mentioned in prior years, like, oh, you don't have to have these huge goals. You can just have like smaller, you know, action steps and actionable goals and stuff like that. But it was never explicitly broken down like this. So I really appreciate this because I think it's just another way to make the goal setting process a little bit more easy to work through and go step by step. So it's not too overwhelming, which it definitely can be. So here we have a page where you kind of start actually putting together your yearly goals. So on this side, we have just a couple examples using those different goal types on this side, and then a space to do your rough draft on this side. And this is different than last year. Last year, there was a full page that you could use for your rough draft, and I really appreciated that. Because I tend to write a lot, and I honestly don't think half a page is enough to draft your yearly goals, especially if you're also breaking them into possibly like some of these smaller types of goals. So I don't really know like how functional this page is. I might have to grab another sheet of paper or something like that, but that's kind of a weird change in my opinion to like take away space for goals. And kind of like brainstorming, but I don't know. They provide a couple little like considerations down here, which are helpful, but I almost think you could remove like one of these examples and move this stuff over here, and then you get a full page. But I'm not sure if that's just me, like in terms of how much I write, but I really did like in last year's Power Sheets having like an entire page. On to the next page here. This is where you actually start writing out your yearly goals, which is a huge step in the prep process, really where everything starts coming together. And so we have this page here where you have 8 spaces here to write your goals. And I'm not sure if you can see it very well, but these very faint outlines for the little page flag stickers that are in the front of the Power Sheet, so you can color code your goals if that's something you want to do. So they kept this the same from previous years. But when I think about it, it seems like almost a bit of a jump between like drafting out your yearly goals and really kind of trying to figure out what you might want to like narrowing down exactly what your yearly goals are going to be. I think maybe when we're actually working through the pre-work and everything like that, it'll make more sense. But when I just look at this, I'm like, okay, like rough draft of yearly goals, and you're kind of brainstorming some of these like steps or these smaller kind of step-by-step goals and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden you're writing out your goals. So we'll see how that works. But you know, it's just kind of hard, especially if you might not have done some goal setting to this like extent before. That might be a little bit difficult. But I think one thing to remember is like you can always continue to draft and like refine things on different sheets of paper if you need to, and then it makes it so your yearly goals that you put in here are like the final version. So this page itself is very similar to previous year's pages, so not much has changed here. when we get to this section, you have space for your vision board here. You also have this one page to kind of brainstorm your word of the year. So the word of the year process in the prior Power Sheets was kind of a bigger process. There was 2 pages. And in the 2021 version, because they didn't give you your word of the year card, which is this like white and gold card, they had a full page on this side that was like my word of the year is, and it was really pretty, and you were able to write your word of the year in here. And then they had also a little brainstorming section, but this year they only have this little brainstorming section, and then you have your card to write your word on. So it's a little bit different and a little bit more refined in this year's because they're providing the word of the year card. At least that's my assumption. Let me put this away so I don't lose it. And so over on this side, it's very similar, you know, in terms of brainstorming. You have just like a space to make lists of words that you like. They kind of tell you to look up definitions, and then you kind of make your decision on your word of the year. So this spread is a little bit different, but still very similar in the process of kind of narrowing things down. This page is new for 2022, and it's a very interesting spread because I think that they're trying to make sure that the goal setting process, there's definitely hurdles in it, and they're trying to address those here. So the first one is growing little by little. So they talk a lot about breaking goals down into bite-sized chunks and, you know, trying to do mini goals and smaller action items. So you're making incremental progress over time. And I think that one thing that people encounter in the goal setting process is they don't see that progress happening all at once. And it gets a little bit frustrating. And so here you're journaling on where you've seen little by little progress in your life to just kind of show you that though it doesn't seem like you're making steps forward, you actually are. On this side of the page is turning challenges into opportunities. So really kind of addressing that. Obviously, when you're reaching your goals or trying to reach your goals, you're going to hit some snags and some challenges. So here are just some ideas of different challenges that people face in the goal setting process. And then, you know, seeing what you've experienced before and then figuring out how to take those challenges and turn them into opportunities. So, you know, it's a little bit different, you know, than last year. These didn't exist last year. They weren't in the planner, but I think they're realizing that it's kind of easy for people to get discouraged. And this is just a part of the goal setting process, is running into challenges and maybe putting, you know, some pressure on yourself. They're saying, let's take the pressure off. Pressure on yourself to make progress on your goals like immediately, and that's just not how it works usually. So I really do like these pages because that is something that I definitely run into in the goal setting process. So I can't wait to see kind of how I work through these. Now we finally have the goal action plan pages, and there's multiple of these. There's 8 of them, so you can do one for each of your 8 goals. So we'll just go over this first one. So the goal action plan looks very similar to last year on this side of the page. It breaks it into the type of goal though over here, and then the area, and that is new this year. So you're able to mark down kind of, you know, whether it's one of those 3 that they just introduced this year, and then which area of life it's working on. And then the rest of these questions are very similar to the prior year. So, really, this helps you break down your goal into, you know, what motivates you, if you need any resources, what looks like, what success looks like, all of that stuff on this page. And again, the only addition is this little section over here. And then on this page, it's a lot more open-ended planning than there was last year. So this is just a blank page. They just say it's yours to use for notes or brainstorming, goals or action ideas or sketching a plan. And what they really are pushing is the wildcards from their Goal School library. And so I'll get on at some point, probably a little bit later in the fall, and I'll show you what these different wildcards look like. I also bought the wildcard pack as part of my bundle, where they actually print them and they're sending them to me, but they are shipping a little bit later, so I won't be able to show them to you when I go over my accessories. So I do want to show those to you because they are really pushing the wild cards this year in the Power Sheets themselves and on their social media pages. And so this is a space where you can put in a wildcard sheet if you want to, or you can, like they say, just do some kind of general brainstorming and everything like that. So this is really open-ended. In the prior year, let me show you what this page looked like, and you can kind of see what changed. So here is one of them from last year. You can tell I was kind of working through this for one of my goals, which was mainly focused on getting my house ready to move. And so instead of it being blank, we had this like timeline to put little mini goals in there before the end of 2021. And then like a plan here for a mini goal from January to March. So it is a lot different, a lot more structured here, which I appreciated this kind of structure, but I think you can always do something similar here in just the blank version. But this is definitely a change, but the other side of the page, again, is very similar. So this next page, again, we have multiple of these. We have 8 of them for each of the goals that you have written down. And then we get into this yearly overview page. So this is the exact same as last year. You have them broken out by quarters, but what I find interesting is last year they would label these as quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. Now they are season 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is definitely more towards their like branding of cultivating and like gardening and blooms and, you know, all that kind of stuff. I'm not sure if one is more impactful than the other in terms of seasons versus quarters, but when I think of seasons like in my life and not like the seasons of the year in terms of like fall, winter, spring, I think of just kind of months that have similar qualities or similar things going on. So for example, I would consider season 1 in 2021 to be January through April because we were getting ready to move, and that was just one bunch of months where we were focused on kind of the same thing, and that was moving. And then May, June, July, and August, that was its own season for us because we were focused on then getting married in August. So in all reality, I feel like each year can be broken into different like seasons that might not align directly with the months here and might not align with the quarter. So that's just my opinion. Obviously, I understand what they were doing with the season labels, but I'm wondering if there's like a better way to have this laid out where it's like you can kind of decide what your seasons will be. Just kind of an idea, because especially this year, we had like very distinct parts of our year that were focused on different things. So yeah, like I said, first one was moving, second season was getting married, and then this third season is pretty much just focused on like our new normal as a family in our house, making new memories and like new rituals and stuff like that. So it's just kind of different than how they have it laid out here, and I bet other people have that similar feeling, but you just have to make it fit on this page, if that makes sense. So that's really the only change though between last year and this year. Overall, I really appreciate this page though, because it's a really nice like plan on a spread. So it's definitely helpful to have everything kind of written out on one spread together. The next page here, they give you some space to put in some more wildcards so you can see those again online and download them, and you can just tape them in with some tending tape is what they call it, or washi tape. And so you can put those here, but you can pretty much paste them anywhere throughout your planner. They have some space here where you can tape things if you want to on each of the tabs and everything, but they definitely are leaving a lot of room for those types of wildcard pages. So now we'll get into the actual months. So let me show you January first of all, and then I'll show you April. And then other than that, the rest of the months are going to be the same. So January being the first month of the year will be a little bit different than the rest of the months. So we have this kind of cardstock feeling. It's like a thicker cardstock divider here, which I really like. They have just kind of the gold foiling on the month names, which is really pretty and just kind of adds to the planner and how it looks. I really think that it's really pretty, and especially with like the quotes and everything, it's kind of nice to have. The first thing you'll see is the preparation page, which I honestly, this is probably one of my top 3 pages in my PowerSheets planner that I love to use. I will bring this out and I will just brain dump everything on here. Usually I have a huge list of things to do. And then other than that, it's just kind of having other little, maybe like birthdays, anniversaries, dates, vacations, all that kind of stuff, but everything ends up on here. So that's what I really love. This is the same as prior years, so nothing has really changed. You have a monthly spread here. Every month has a monthly spread, and there's definitely a lot of different ways to use it. So I'll have some recommendations later on when we're really walking through the PowerSheets and the prep work and my first kind of January setup here. But definitely a useful spread to use for whatever you need it for. And then what's a little bit different in January is they kind of tell you how to make attending lists since it's the first time. And they have this other spread that's actually new this year that is called the first month of a new year. And what I really actually like is last year they had this huge spread that was about how to make attending list and the attending list process. But this page I think is really, really cool because I think that after you go through your prep work and everything in the planner, it's really, really daunting to take that first step in the new year to work towards your goals sometimes. So this is just a little suggestion sheet of different things that you can do in each of the categories just to kind of get yourself started. So maybe you're a little nervous to start on like your big goals that you set, but you can always just kind of do these smaller things here. So I think this is a really good page to provide some recommendations to people just to get them started on some goals. This attending list page on this side is definitely similar to prior years, but it's a lot more simplified. So like I said, last year was like this double page spread with like a bunch of different boxes on it. And this is a lot more simplified. So I really appreciate that because I remember seeing that page last year and being like, whoa, this is really overwhelming. So I'm glad they kind of put it on one page and really just simplified what it said. And then we get into kind of the like guts of the planning every month. So the first one here is brainstorm your month, and that's where you start putting ideas into monthly, weekly, and daily sections. There really isn't a whole lot different about these except the areas this month covered, which is this down here. So it has all of the 8 areas and you just mark which areas you're covering with this month's kind of action items and goals. So this is kind of similar to prior years, and then the attending list is also very similar to prior years, except for what they did a little bit differently is they have the weeks here, and they've always kind of listed these by, you know, the day of the week and then the date. But they have them broken out into weeks, which I find really helpful. Previously, they didn't have like the little breaks between the weeks. And for whatever reason, even though they were labeled, that was just kind of a little bit hard for me visually to see like which week I was on and really figure things out. You know, it was kind of a small detail, but it's something that it makes it easier to see like which week you're on. So I definitely like this, that little change, but other than that, everything is pretty much the same on this page. There are 10 monthly action items, there's 6 weekly action items, and then there are 7 daily action items or habits. So there's definitely a lot of space to put in a lot of things here. That is the same as last year, and so I really appreciated that they kept that the same because I think these are like a good number for each section. And then finally, the last page in the month is this month in review. And so it's where you can kind of go through and write down different things that you are grateful for, goals that are growing well, what's not working, what I'd read or listened to, favorite memories, everything like that. And so they changed one of the prompts, the what's not working right now. Last year, it was something a little bit different. One thing that they did change is that they made these like really light boxes, and you honestly can barely see them in like in person, and I don't even know if you'll be able to see them on the camera. I'm trying to at least get some like different light. There's very, very faint boxes around these, and they're really, really hard to see. So I wish they would have done something a little bit like more I don't want to say colorful. Last year was definitely colorful. Let me show you. We have this here was last year's. So you can see that they definitely had a lot of color, which I wish they could have done something kind of between this and the prior year, just a little bit of color, but not a whole lot. But this is really hard to see in my opinion. And I don't know, maybe it's like a printing issue or something like that. And it's supposed to be a little darker, but that is just one thing I wish was a little bit different about this page. The months here, so like February and March are the same as January, except for they don't include the prep pages that kind of talk about starting the year and how to do a tending list. They just have kind of the main goal setting pages of the month. So February and March are the same. When you get into April, you have a chance to do a quarterly refresh. And I'm sorry if you can hear any noise in the background. My husband decided to start working on like a project in the garage, and he's like screwing things into the wall. So kind of noisy. So you have the chance here to do a goal refresh at each quarter. So April, July, and October, you have these refresh pages. And so this first refresh, let me show you what it looks like. You have your cultivated life evaluation check-in. And so you're able to do the same check-in that you did in your prep work here just to see where things have changed. One difference that I've noticed is that they included a little line for your previous score. So now you can see whether or not you've grown or stayed the same. This is very similar to the prior year other than that little previous line. This page over here is just a little bit extra work in terms of some goal prep and kind of some refresh in terms of your like the pre-work that we did. So this gives you a little bit of a task to do if you feel like doing it. There's just a couple prompts here. The April refresh here, this prompt is the same as last year's, but the July and October ones are different. So that's just something to keep in mind. But over here on this next page, we have our keep moving forward section. And it's a little bit more focused on like the positives at first than it was in prior years. And so that's kind of nice. I think prior years, it just kind of said, which goal do you feel stuck on, and went from there. But this one really asks you what you've made the most progress on. So it just kind of gets you in the mindset of like looking at your successes before looking at your, like where you're having some issues. Over here is your spot to put your refreshed goals. So if you end up changing any of your goals or getting rid of any goals, you can rewrite your annual goals here. And then this is kind of your new section for you to look at to kind of guide your actions and everything for the upcoming quarter. The one thing that is a little bit different is the word of the quarter section down here. So you can add in like a specific word instead of your word of the year, or if you're maybe changing your word of the year, you can include it here. What I do really appreciate is they have some suggestions here for your monthly spread that comes in each month. So if you are kind of having problems figuring out what to do in your monthly spread, you can kind of look at these, and then they have a little link here that points to finding more ways to use your calendar. So I think that's really helpful because I've seen definitely on Facebook groups and everything, people are not quite sure how to use the monthly spread sometimes, especially if they already have a planner that they're using like on a weekly or a daily basis. So that would definitely be helpful in figuring out some other options. Here we have just kind of another planning section for some mini goals and action ideas. And so this is definitely different than the prior year. Last year, there were separate planning pages for each of the 8 goals. And so they've condensed that into one page here, which I think a lot of people are a little concerned about. I've definitely seen some questions recently about like, where is the breakdown for each of the goals in the quarterly refresh section, and there isn't one. After this, it goes straight into the prep work or the goal and tending list prep for April. So what you'll see here is just kind of a very, very simple brainstorming format where you have your goal over here and then your action ideas over here. And it kind of is similar to what they did in the prep work where they just left like a half page for your rough draft. And I don't know if I like that at this point. What I have seen them suggesting on the Facebook groups for people that are concerned or are asking about it is that you can just download some of the wildcard sheets and use those, and they give you, there's just opportunities to do more planning on those. But there's a lot of people that want their goal process in their power sheets, and you can't paste in 8 wildcard sheets in here very easily. You can, obviously, you can layer them and do some stuff with it, but you know, a lot of people just wish the pages were included in the book. So if those refresh pages, those individual planning pages were important to you, that's one thing to keep in mind when looking at the power sheet system for this year, is that was taken out. And just for example, this is what it looked like last year. So it's the same spread. It goes through and has your yearly goal here, and so you get a quarter page for each, and then there was another spread here. So you had 2 spreads worth of this where you could work on each of your 8 goals, and that I think was really, really nice. And really it's only a couple pages, so I'm not quite sure why they took it out, but I think a lot of people really liked those pages in last year's planner. Here's just a very blank page, and so what I'm thinking is they're wanting you to do some brainstorming here, or you can use some wildcard sheets to paste in here, but it's just very, very open-ended, so I don't really know how I'll use this sheet. Like I said, I kind of prefer more like prompted pages, so we'll just see how this goes. And then we get into the normal monthly planning. So this is all the same as the prior months in terms of what's included, but just at the quarter, you have this extra little section in the front to do your refresh. So, you know, the rest of the months here are the same other than the quarterly refresh pages, but let me get to the back of the planner and I'll show you what is at the back. So at the very end, after December, you have this page here that says you did it, you know, high five, all of that. And then the last pages in the planner are these years in review. So the 2022 year in review has these boxes broken out by month. And again, they're very, very, very light tan. You can barely see them in person. And it just says, kind of fill this in with highlights from each month to mark this year in your life. So you can go through and just kind of put the good things that have happened or bigger progress points that you made with your goals, whatever you want to do. But this is broken out by month. And then over on this side, you have your 2022 year in review, but it gives you very specific prompts. So there's like your favorite memory, best new habit, most memorable adventure, milestone celebrated, biggest change, all of that. So there's a bunch of different prompts here for you to write things down, but it is a little bit different than the, you know, month by month one over here. And then finally, the very last page is just this plug for their new Power Sheets planner for 2023. So obviously we have no details about that yet, but they always have this in the back of the planner just to kind of nudge you to start ordering and thinking about your 2023 planner. So that is it for the Power Sheets kind of physical walkthrough in terms of kind of pointing out what's the same, what's different, physical characteristics, all of that stuff. What I will say really quickly is just some things that I haven't really mentioned before. I would say the paper feels the same as prior years. I don't think anything changed with the paper quality. I do really like, and this is something I noticed kind of randomly, they reordered the color of the tabs. So now it's definitely like rainbow. So you go pink through yellow here, and then green through like bluish purple here. Previous years, it was like a little jumbled. I think it went like pink through yellow and then like purple through green or something like that. So I like that they did that. It's just like visually appealing to me. But otherwise, just overall, I wanted to talk about a couple of my kind of observations. This planner feels a lot more simple in terms of the design. I think there's a lot more white space, especially in the pre-planning section, than in prior years. And so I don't know if that was intentional to give you more space to write, or if it was just kind of a design decision that they made to have more white space, but I definitely noticed that. In general, just the design is a lot more simple, and I think that it, you know, kind of goes hand in hand with the white space. Like I said a little bit earlier, they're really pushing the wildcard pages, so I'm not sure if they've like added a bunch more of them. I'm not quite sure. I'm really excited to get my wildcard pack and be able to walk through it. And again, I'll show you guys what those look like when I receive them. but they're really pushing them on social media. And I think that it might be just a way to get people onto their website, onto Goal School, which is good. They definitely have a lot to offer on there, and there's a lot of good like tips and tricks on that website to help you get started and work through your power sheets. So I really think that that's kind of a focus, is kind of getting people to the site, and then they can see, oh, there's not only wildcard pages, there's a bunch of other resources on here as well. So keep that in mind. You know, if you think it's just wildcard pages, it's not. There's a bunch of other stuff on there. The other thing I wanted to mention, and I see this coming up a lot in, you know, some different Facebook groups relating to goals, is Cultivate What Matters is definitely very focused on faith and like the Christian faith and everything like that. A lot of their products are based in like Christian principles, and they are about prayer and faith and everything like that, and cultivating faith, and that is perfectly fine. But it makes people kind of concerned about using the power sheets. A lot of people wonder whether or not the power sheets are really faith-based, and they're not. There's really no mention in here of like anything faith related, other than one of their categories is called spiritual and personal growth. But I think that's broad enough. So that is really the only thing. There might be a mention, I believe, on a couple pages here that says, you know, grow my faith or something like that as an example, but it's not the only suggestion. So that's something I wanted to touch on, because I think that when you go to their website, you know, you see that they have like they have a whole section relating to faith, and then they have a whole section relating to goal setting. So if you focus on the goal setting aspect of it, you're not going to get a lot of the faith-based suggestions and everything like that. So that's just something I want to mention. You can, you know, take it or leave it. Obviously, if you would like to explore the faith side, there's a lot of really, really great journals and everything like that, and great products that are, you know, based on their, like the faith side of their business. I did want to mention that because I just have seen it come up a lot in different groups that I'm part of. So other than that, I am really excited to hop into this planner. Overall, not a whole lot has changed between 2021 and this current version. What I will say is I think most of the changes are positives, other than them kind of taking out some of the more some of the pages that like help you kind of deep dive a little bit more into your goals, especially like the rough draft of your goals, and then the quarterly pages that help you kind of line out your action items for the quarter. So we'll see how that goes. I think they've gotten some feedback already on that, so we'll see how they use that going forward. But I'm really interested to take a look, like I said, at the wildcard pages and some of the other resources on their Goal School website. And I am thinking about doing a video to kind of go over those things if you're interested. But in the meantime, if you'd like to, you can always go to their website and see what they have available. They don't have, from what it looks like, they don't have the Goal School website up yet. And that's just based on the link that I got when I ordered. So something to check if you order on Wednesday. Hopefully they'll have that updated and ready to go. But I'm really excited to kind of see what resources are on there. But what I'm going to do also is release a video talking about my accessories that I purchased and the different bundle options available. And hopefully that helps you guys kind of decide what you're going to get on launch day. So keep an eye out for that video coming up in the next day or so. And that will be kind of the content leading up to launch day on October 6th. So if you have any questions, like I mentioned, please feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I'll try and address them in my next video, or I will try and answer them down in the comments for you. So just check back with that. But hopefully you found this helpful. Again, I am just so excited to get started and show you guys a little bit more about goal setting later this year, kind of getting started with my goals in 2022. So again, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will talk to you later. Bye.